Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the HZSOUND HeartMirror Pro. Excuse me. This is the continuation of the original HZSOUND HeartMirror. Now brings an updated driver, supposedly. It also brings better accessories. In this particular case, it brings a modular cable setup with all the three terminations, 2.5, 3.5 and 4.4. Brings the same variety of tips as the original, a new case, so a whole group of things to basically justify the price increase from the original $40 to $45 to now $79. So we've almost doubled the price. And on top of all of that, obviously, it brings a new tuning. And just a little quick thing before I continue, I actually find it quite interesting that a couple of weeks ago, or well, months, when another brand launched a particular IEM, which was the CCA CRA Plus. A number of people were all very quick to jump on KZ's back and say that, oh, how could they have named it the CCA Plus when the tuning has been so completely and radically changed as compared to the original CRA. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, so they changed a little bit the tuning, but the basic philosophy or the basic formula is there. So yeah, CRA Plus, all right, fine. Well, you will see in a couple of minutes when I delve more into this review. The tuning of the HeartMirror Pro has nothing to do with the original HeartMirror, and I'm curious to see if people will also jump on the back of HZSOUND. I mean, anyway, that's a little private rant of mine. Those of you that follow me know that I've got a big passion for the original HeartMirror. I own several. I'm not going to say how many because I don't want people to make fun of me, but let's just say it's quite a few. And I just brought out the box just for the sake of comparing the packaging between the original one and the latest one. I actually like the system of a drawer that the original one had, but everything, it's very kind of similar. So let me just, it's kind of a very similar presentation. The original one, the wire was actually very nice quality wire. Underneath it had the case, the tips, everything was very nice. I mean, seriously, very well done. And then the new one basically just continues that same idea of the original HeartMirror. The IEMs obviously came over there. I'll show them to you in a second. Underneath here we have all the cables. It's got plenty of tips, as you can see. It's got this cable, which is a cable with a microphone, and then it's got the mentioned modular cable, which, to be honest with you, I mean, you can buy a TRN modular cable for about $15, and it's got I'm just gonna say way more quality than this modular cable. So this is probably the cheapest you could go for a modular cable. And to be totally frank, I actually prefer that cable there. It's just the fact that it's got the microphone, but I actually prefer the quality of this cable. It's nicer. This cable here reminds me very much of the cable of the Moondrop SSB, SSR. I actually like that cable better. This one just tangles a little bit, as you can see. I don't know. I don't think. Well, for this price, they could have. It's nice that it's a modular cable included, but they could have just put one decent modular cable in there, and that would be it. Okay. Anyway, that's another little rant of mine. That's it. Packaging out of the way. All right. Let's talk about our by the way. This is the case. Actually, very nice. An improvement over the original. This is the original case. Nice. Okay, so let's talk about the HeartMirror Pro. It's got a color like a darkish gunmetal color, but in everything else, the shape of the shell, everything is exactly the same as the original. As you can see, I'm not using the standard cable. I'm using an XINHS cable. Fit is flawless. I mean, this shell is probably one of my favorite shells. This shell, the shell of the TinHiFI T2 Plus, the shell of the Richo SG01, and the shell of the Blon 05S. All of these shells are really, I mean, they fit beautifully in my ears. They're not overly large. I mean, there's absolutely nothing to say. So that's it. Fit perfect, isolation perfect. It's got a nice weight to it, so nice solid construction. As I said, they apparently have updated the driver, and it now uses an updated version of the CNT driver that the original one used. They've maintained some of the overall parameters in terms of impedance and so on and so forth, so it's still 32 ohms, and that's that. Okay, so what do I have in front of me here, or into the side here, to compare and to position the HZSOUND, the HeartMirror Pro? Well, I thought it made sense to bring out the T2 DLC, the latest from TinHiFi, because when I show you in the graph section, the graphs of these two are almost identical. I thought it also made sense to bring out the T3 Plus. Again, not only graphically they look similar, but they actually sound similar, the price is similar. And then obviously it made perfect sense to bring out the original to compare it with. To bring out the Celeste, the Gumio. Again, because when you listen to these two, there's more similarities than non-similarities. So I thought it was an interesting thing to just mention the Gumio. And then this other HZSOUND HeartMirror that's over there is a original one modified by me. Okay, and I just brought it out to kind of position it as well, and better find a place for the Pro. All right, let's go by stages. The original one was all about what was a neutral in the bass, with a nice bright upper mids presence. Excuse me. And what that basically meant in terms of the sound was it was super detailed, loads of detailed retrieval. I mean, for under $50, there was nothing that touched it. It far exceeded and surpassed the previous king of that throne, which was the original TinHiFi T2, and it basically, took the T2 out of the picture, of the equation. Better bass in terms of quality, more bass in terms of quantity, better mids in my opinion, more detail, more cleanliness in that detail. Fantastic IM. I mean, I think that any serious aficionado of this hobby should have certain specific IMs, even if those IMs don't maybe represent their ideal sound, but they should be present in those in those collections. The Blon 03 is one of them. The original HZSOUND is another, definitely. Excuse me. So that's the basically in a nutshell the original one. This one has come in and changed everything around. way more bass, significantly more bass than the original. That new amount of bass that it's brought has given it obviously more weight. It's now capable of, if the sub bass on the original was just noticeable, now here you can hear it very well. The mids in the by themselves as well have kind of maintained the magic that was present in the original, but wherein things just kind of go downhill is not the correct word, but just change very much is in how the original one was airy, lots of air, lots of detail, lots of space. This one has shut that down significantly, so it's a much more darker sounding IEM as compared to the original, and one that is and will be very much tip dependent. I tried several tips, and the two tips that worked the best were the latest TRI Clarion, which I've got on here, and besides the TRI Clarion, the KBE07, the Cyanus also worked very well. Ultimately, I left the Clarions because the difference in performance was negligible, and just just something new to try out, and since I'd just recently acquired the Clarions, I thought, well, why not just leave the Clarions instead of just staying always stuck on the same thing, although they work, the KBEs. So yeah, I mean, as I was saying, in terms of detailed retrieval, nowhere as much detailed retrieval as the original. Soundstage also seems smaller, more closed, not as wide. That one had a nice wide soundstage, decent enough height, decent enough depth. This one is closed in. The imaging is about the same, but it's better there, and basically because of that extra ability of detailed retrieval in micro and macro details, or better, come across better here than on the Pro. In terms of tonality and timbre, I guess ultimately the Pro just edges out slightly the HZ Sound, the original, because of that extra amount of bass that it's got. It just confers a certain timbre and tonality to some instruments, and to some vocals that the original was perhaps a little bit too clinical about. It's not that it was wrong, but this one sounds more organic, sounds more a terminology which I haven't really used a lot lately, but it sounds more old school over here. Over there, it sounds more digital. Okay, let's put it that way. But both are very well done. So in terms of tonality and timbre, it's not that one is really better than the other. They both do what they do very well, but ultimately this one will probably be the more correct one. The remaining of the technicalities, I'll give it to the original. Bass, in terms of quality of the bass, very equal, although that less quantity of bass present on the original does give the bass there a certain quickness, which over here became slightly sluggish. Okay, but I'll give the bass to both of them. Okay, it's different flavors, but it's both good. The mids, the same situation. Okay, they both are different flavors of mids, but they're both very good. The highs, they go to the original one. Okay, that's basically the Pro compared to the original. As compared to the TinHiFI T3 Plus, the similarity in terms of the overall sound is very, very big, and I had to be quite attentive to pick up on which was which. Ultimately, yes, there's just a smidge more openness and detail here. That particularly in cymbals, you will ultimately pick out the T3 Plus, and yes, it comes out on top. I'm not gonna say that it's better or worse than the T3, than the Pro. I'm just going to say that they are both on par with each other. I mean, really, there isn't much in between these two. As compared to the DLC, the T2 DLC, well, straight away, although graphically, again, there's a lot of similarities, straight away, yes, you do feel there's a little bit more bass presence here as compared to the DLC. But I think that that's down more to the fact that, although, like I said, they graphically look exactly the same, there's more energy here in the mids, the upper mids, than there is over there. It's just more open, more detailed. And it's not that graphically you can see a big difference, because it's almost non-existent, but there is. So better mids, better highs, more detail here. Kind of the DLC is kind of an original HeartMirror, just slightly tamed down in terms of the overall amount of energy that it has in the high ends, and with more bass. Quality of the bass is the same as the original. Quality of the bass is the same as the Pro. It's just that the Pro just has a little bit extra weight. Okay. Technicalities, soundstage, imaging, I'm going to give it to the DLC. Again, the tonality and the timbre, very much equal, very much equal. I'm going to say that final result between these two, the DLC slightly edges out the Pro, slightly edges out, but it will be also very much dependent on what your genre of music is and what you like listening to. That will dictate the final decision. Again, very much the same situation as we found in the T3 Plus. They both of these IMs are very good on their own, and compared to the HeartMirror, the Pro, they have advantages and other things which is they just do as good as the Pro. The differences are minimal, honestly minimal. As compared to let's say the outlier here, which is the Gumio, because it's in a sea of single DDs, this is the only hybrid here. I've included it because in terms of the bass and the mids, it's basically again a HeartMirror Pro, very similar, just a little bit more weight. Weight note on the Gumio, and perhaps just a little bit extra quickness in the way that the kick drum comes across here as opposed to the HeartMirror. But the differences in that aspect are not big. Where there is differences, and you can pick up on them straight away, is obviously then in the upper mids, presence, brilliance. So that the treble basically here, you can notice there's more detail, and with that it brings then advantages in terms of detail retrieval. Soundstage, imaging, funny enough, I would say they're about the same, although there's more detail here. The soundstage of the Gumio is not as large as, for example, the soundstage on the DLC or the original, or even the T3 Plus. So, there's similarities to a certain extent, but no, there's not enough here to say that it's better. So, in a nutshell, where can I, or how do I position this? This is an interesting IM, definitely. An IM which comes in at a price where there's a lot of competition, and I mean, I didn't put the BQEYZ Topaz in here, I didn't put the Moondrop Aria here, I didn't put the Duno Titan S. There's quite a few other IMs I could have added that I didn't do so, just not to confuse things. It's a valid IM. I'm gonna say that if you are a person that likes the original HD sound like I did and are expecting something along those lines, no, it isn't. It's very different to the original. More bass, but with that more bass, it's also lost all the detail and all that sparkly and the twinklies and so on, like I sometimes say that the original had. But it's nevertheless still interesting. Its problem, like I just mentioned, is that it's a competitive group of IEMs in which it's integrated into, and you have the T3 Plus, fantastic IEM, one of the better TinHiFI IEMs of the newer generation. The T2 DLC, which I just reviewed, fantastic. I mean, really, really good IEM as well. Cheaper even than the HeartMirror Pro. The Gumio, again, another interesting proposition in more ways than one. The fact that it costs $50 cheaper, the fact that it's got some novel technology in terms of the transducers used, again, interesting. The sound as well, interesting. So and yeah, I guess that basically kind of positions the HeartMirror Pro. I'm not gonna say not to get it. I'm just gonna say to audition it and then make your decision. Lastly, and very quickly, what about my take on the original HC Sound? Well, this version, yeah, is the culmination of maybe, I would say, 5 different versions that I've tried, and many hours of changing filters and sponge and this and that and different dampers and I mean several things that I've done differently. And what I've been able to do with this one is basically keep 96% of all of the detail that the original one had, but added a bass which is very much similar to the bass of the Pro, and kind of made, in my modest opinion, this is my modest opinion, I think that this my version would have been maybe a more sensible upgrade in terms of what was the original and what it became than the Pro. I know I'm being bold when I'm saying that, and maybe some people might even think that I'm being cocky, but it's my opinion, and I say it based on countless hours of tuning the original HD sound over many months, and this final version that I have here, it is really very nice. Honestly, I very much wish I could have some of the people that are hearing what I'm saying and that might not agree with what I am saying. I would really like those people to hear it, because they would be very surprised. It's a very good driver, and properly tuned, it can yield some amazing results. I've got another set of Pros coming in, which I will be modifying to see what I can do with it, and I'll definitely let you guys know what comes out of it. Anyway, this is the first part of the review. Second part of the review, as you guys know, I'll show you the graphs and just a quick little extra comparison between them. And that's it. So as usual, like and subscribe. Any questions or any doubts you guys might have, please feel free to ask. I always, like I said, do my very best to answer everybody. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi guys, and welcome to the graph section of my HZSOUND HeartMirror Pro review. And what better way to start than with the graph excuse me, of the original HZSOUND HeartMirror. And as you can see by the graph that I'm showing you here, please forgive my peak here not being exactly the 8K, but I mean, for the purpose of what I was trying to illustrate here, it's fine. The difference is going to be minimal. Nice flat neutral bass, as you can see, with a nice energetic upper mids presence area, loads of detail past 10K, and all of this basically translates itself to this very clean, very detailed signature. Just for the sake of curiosity, and to just show that contrary to what a lot of people thought, that the HD sound was perhaps a little bit lifeless, and you know, not enough energy. The graph I've just overlaid, and let me just, there you go, that's it, perfect. The graph I just overlaid is the graph belonging to the MIM Dark Magician, the original. And I think I don't need to say a lot for the majority of you to understand what I'm trying to say by showing you this graph. The MIM Dark Magician has a graph which is very identical to the original HeartMirror, and much the same way as in the HeartMirror, the MIM is got loads more bass, loads more energy, loads more fun than what you would be led to believe by looking at this graph. And the HD sound is exactly that. The HeartMirror is precisely that. The original had a lot more bass energy than what you would think, and if you actually gave it a little bit of power, it came alive, and it is a fantastic IEM. I mean, like I said, the graph I'm showing you, I think, will illustrate perfectly what I'm trying to establish as a reference point for the HeartMirror. Anyway, that's the graph of the original. And what I'm going to show you now is the graph of the Pro, okay, using the Clarion, the TRI Clarion tips. And there we go. So, significantly more bass, definitely. Not better bass, mind you. And then it kind of is very identical in the way that it rises, you know, the pinna gain rise, and the way it kind of stays almost flat across here. It's then got stip and then some energy past 10k. However, and contrary to some other IEMs that graph in a very similar way to this, where there is a nice amount of energy and cleanliness and so on. I mean, a perfect example of that is, for example, the Olina. Let me just put the Olina on so that you can see what I'm saying and not just take my word for it. Olina, there we go. Olina. Let me just change the color. Bam, there we go. Okay, Olina. As you can see, the Olina actually graphs very identical to the Pro, or the HM Pro identical to the Olina. Please keep in mind, this is the Olina, the one with the double dampers. And you listen to the Olina, and it's, I mean, on a different level of resolution, of 3D, it's on a different level. It is really very good. So by looking at the graph of the HM Pro, you would think, oh, okay, it's going to have the same thing. No. Unfortunately, no, it doesn't have the same sense of resolution, of detail retrieval, of airiness that you get from the Olina. So that's the original versus the Pro. Another graph that I'm going to show you now is the graph of the Celeste. Okay, there we go. Very identical in terms of the bass, the mids as well, similar to a certain extent, but then lots more energy and in the brilliance area, and you notice that the Celeste is just, the Gumio is just got more sparkle. It's more detailed, but it doesn't come at the cost of it being sibilant or aggressive or harsh or anything of the sort. Okay. Another graph of some of the IEMs that I mentioned is the TinHiFI, the T2 DLC, and again, as you can see, the same situation as with the Olina, very similar graph, but this time you do notice that there's more information up top, more clarity, more detail. And when I mentioned in the review that maybe the base of the HM is more, it maybe is more not because there is more of it, but because it's more noticeable since there isn't as much energy up top, contrary to what the graph says. So you would think they would sound the same, and they don't sound the same. Okay, so that's the TinHiFi, and this is the T3 Plus, just for the sake of, again, having another idea of another IM with very similar sound to the HM Pro. Bass, mids, everything very similar. It's just the way that it treats the upper frequencies that it's different. And again, you notice that the upper frequencies in the T3 Plus are just a little bit extra more crisp, a little bit more detailed. Okay, so let me see. This, I've showed you that, showed you that, showed you that. Am I missing anything else? No. Oh, and this, what I'm going to show you now, is the graph of my version of the original HM HeartMirror, and it's this graph here. Okay, this is my take on the original, retuned. So actually, let me just put you the original so that you see. Okay, the black line is the original. My one is the purple line, which is retuned. I've maintained basically the same kind of energy that you had in the mids. A little bit more energy up top in the brilliance, so past 10K. A little bit extra energy here below about 70 hertz. And what this translates to in practical terms is it's a HeartMirror, 95-97% of HeartMirror, with just that little extra warmth in the sub bass to give it a little bit more presence in the rumble. Okay, it's more there. Okay, how does that compare then to the HM Pro? Well, this is the HM Pro, and honestly, and I mentioned that in my review, I think that if they had managed to obtain something that sounded more like my version, it would have been a more well, to me, it would have been a better update on the original formula of the HeartMirror. A little bit less mid bass as compared to the Pro, but just the way that this whole signature here in the upper mids and presence area is done, and then that energy past 10K, it just makes it more detailed, more pleasant to the ear. I mean, it's really a very nice sounding version of the original HM. Anyway, guys, that's my take on the HZSOUND HeartMirror Pro. Interesting IM, sounds good, but very much a very different approach to what the original was like. And well, I guess it's down to your preference and what you actually want. But the difference is there. It's noticeable, and I think personally that it's not been so much an upgrade, but more of a side grade. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to reply. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.